I'm delighted to be joined by the Northern Ireland Secretary, Brandon Lews. Brandon, very good to see you. Plainly, relations with the EU are at a pretty fraught stage. I mean, David Frost, the negotiator for the UK, saying absolutely no progress. This issue of the sort of barrier down the Irish Sea between Great Britain and Northern Ireland, which follows from this Northern Ireland Protocol, which we signed when leaving the EU. How worried are you about a resumption of violence in Northern Ireland?
Well, I think what really worries me is making sure that the EU do really understand how these things play out on the ground here in Northern Ireland. I was very pleased this week to join Lord Frost and Maros Šefčovič. We met with business leaders here in Northern Ireland and with civic society in a virtual meeting. I think that kind of engagement from the EU is important so that they understand the sense of feeling, because there is obviously an issue for those in the unionist community who feel very strongly about their sense of identity and the tension that has been created, particularly since the EU went to activate Article 16, but the outworkings of the protocol, the technical impact it has in terms of people's lives here and businesses here in Northern Ireland, is something that applies to the whole community of Northern Ireland. And I want to make sure that we get this working in a way that delivers for the people of Northern Ireland.
But a very senior official involved in the talks said to me today that he felt there was, and this was something that had been communicated to Maros Šefčovič, he thought there was a risk of a resumption of violence if political dialogue fails. I just really want to gauge from you, you're on the ground, this is your responsibility, how anxious you are about that.
Well, I think it is important that we are able, and the EU actually shows some flexibility and some serious engagement to show that that talking about these things, taking a proper diplomatic, democratic process can deliver for people. I do think that's important. I think particularly because there is a sense from some people that the EU really hasn't been listening, and it was a bit tin-eared when it went to activate Article 16. What we've been putting forward
Article 16 was a completely different issue. What we're talking about now is a protocol that we signed with our eyes open, which most people would say we are simply not honouring.
Well, two things on that, Robert. First of all, actually, the real sense of tension that we've seen develop here in Northern Ireland has changed dramatically from that action the EU took. That had an impact. That is still a reality. We are still dealing with the fallout and the sense of anger in the unionist community that came around after that action. There is no doubt about that in my mind from talking to people. But as I say, the outworkings of the protocol affect everybody here in Northern Ireland. And I think we need to also remember what the protocol is about. It does recognise the very delicate, sensitive, unique circumstances of Northern Ireland. It set out itself, in the protocol itself, that we wouldn't be disrupting the everyday lives of people in their communities. In fact, in Article 6, Part 2, it actually says both we and the EU will seek to reduce and avoid checks at ports, airports and wider ports.
But on that, the leader of the biggest...
what's happening on the ground.
But just on that, the leader of the biggest unionist party in Northern Ireland, Edwin Poots, has said today he thinks the time has probably come for the British government to rip up that protocol because it's not working. So do you agree with that?
Well, we've always said we want to work with the EU. That's why we've put forward over a dozen papers. We want to engage them around a pragmatic way to make sure that things can work. We understand the EU's position that they want to protect the single market, and products moving from the UK and from mainland Great Britain through Northern Ireland into the Republic of Ireland and therefore the EU do need to be properly dealt with. We've had SPS checks of some form for decades now because the single epidemiological unit of the island of Ireland. We absolutely accept that. But we've also got to make sure that we put paramount the Good Friday, the Belfast Agreement. And that has all three strands to it. It's not just north-south.
Sure.
East-west matters as well.
So on east-west, and talking about SBS checks, your colleagues have said that there is no possibility of the British government allowing a ban from the end of June on the trade between Great Britain and Northern Ireland in chilled meats, and essentially this is the bangers, the sausages issue. So are we simply going to unilaterally, if we can't negotiate changes that we think are acceptable, are we simply going to unilaterally tear up, ignore that ban?
Well, look, I've said myself, Robert, as have colleagues, Lord Frost and the Prime Minister as well, we want to make sure that the citizens of the UK who live in Northern Ireland can access products from the rest of the UK in the same way that anybody else in the UK can. That includes chilled meats. We're not at that stage yet, but we've said we will keep all options open. We want to work with the EU. We want to get a pragmatic, flexible solution that works for everybody. But we've got to make sure that we are putting first and foremost the Good Friday Belfast Agreement and respecting, as the protocol said it would, the integrity of the UK internal market.
But just to be clear, the only reason you're not at the stage, Brandon, of unilaterally deciding sausages can come into Northern Ireland is because, you know, the Prime Minister doesn't want to have a row with the US President about this weekend. You're going to do it next week, aren't you?
No, we want to work with the EU, as we did earlier this year. When we took the unilateral action in March, we were clear with the EU. We wanted to come to an agreement with them. The only reason we took the actions we did in March was we got to that deadline point where food suppliers were being very clear with us. If we didn't take action that week, we would have had empty shelves here in Northern Ireland. That isn't what the protocol is setting out to achieve. It's very clear in its own words that that's the opposite of what it wants to achieve. We want to make sure we are delivering on the protocol. Let's remember, we spent over £250 million on trader support schemes, movement assistance schemes. We've had over 1.8 million declarations through those systems. So we are implementing the protocol. We want to make sure it works in a pragmatic and, as I say, a flexible way. That means it delivers for the people of Northern Ireland whilst also respecting the single market of the EU.
Brandon, as ever, great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.